today's video, I'm gonna show you guys how to switch out an LS engine with the replacement one. Stay tuned. So the engine I'm going to be replacing today is this here 6.2, the LS series. I think it's the L94. This is on a 2010 Cadillac Escalade. But if you are changing on a Chevrolet truck, you know, 1500, Silverado, a Sierra, anything that is LS powered, this is pretty much the steps to switch an engine out, whether you're going to do a rebuild once you get it out or you're going to get a used one. Same thing. This is a remanufactured engine, so it's not brand new per se, but you know, they do put everything new in them. So this is what's going to go in this vehicle. It does run and everything. There's a little bit of a noise, and I personally suspect it's a lifter. These are known for that. They have the DOD, which is deactivation on demand or something like that, which all these engines are known for, you know, giving out on the lifter side. It's not a bad noise. It's kind of quiet, but also kind of sounds like it's in the bottom end. But it's been running like this for years. I don't know, it has like 60,000 miles on it since it was making that noise. It still runs good. So we opted, instead of doing a rebuild on this one, to get a remanufactured one with the warranty, rather than getting all the parts, rebuilding it, waiting on a machine shop, and really you don't have a warranty at that point. So other than my warranty here, which, you know, I'd rather just put another one in than do all that. It's just a lot more work, a lot more time, a lot more labor involved in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. I probably will remove the hood out of this just to help me get some access to working in there. This is a two-wheel drive, so if you have a four-wheel drive, it's a little bit harder on the bottom because of the differential. I am going to pull the engine out just by itself without the transmission. So I'm going to first drain the oil, start draining the coolant. Then I'll start taking all the accessories, all the things off here on top. And then I'll kind of, you know, show you guys what I do as I'm going. But I'm going to start with draining the oil and coolant, and then taking like the intake off, plastics off, all that stuff here on top. Okay, so far I took the hood off, so it gives me a lot of room to work up here. And so I took the air intake off. You know, the box, you just pull it up, do the hose clamps on the intake. I did the hose here on the bottom to drain the coolant. I couldn't find a drain plug on the radiator, so I just drained it there. Have my oil or coolant pan on the bottom. And so I took the cover off the top. I took the top radiator hose off. And then I went ahead and started draining the oil underneath. So, you know, this is all stuff that is kind of simple to do. And next, what I'm going to do, and what you would want to do, is start taking the top off here. So I have an engine leveler, if you see it over there. And so that'll hook up in, you know, 4 points to pull the engine out, or you can do like a chain or something like that. And I'm gonna have to take the intake off to get my hoist low enough here. Also, if you see, if I left the intake, there's no way I can pretty much lift the engine off the motor mounts. I'm gonna take the alternator off. This one's just gonna go on the side. My power steering pump, rather than trying to take the pulley off and everything, what I do is I unbolt this whole bracket. It's got about 3 or 4 bolts that go all the way through. There's one here, there's one down here, and I think maybe one down there on the bottom. And so this, what I will do is I'll move it here to the side next to the computer, tie it here, and then take the fans off and the radiator. The radiator kind of hides behind, but just that way I don't damage it. I will take it out. The fans for sure, they're on the way. And I might take the water pump off, just that way there's a little bit more room, because I do have to pull the engine this way. Harmonic balancer, I'm gonna see if I can leave it on. I think last time I did one of these, I did have to take it off because I needed room to pull the engine this way, but once it's out of the motor mounts, I can maybe turn it and pull it out. So next, remove your radiator fans, radiator, alternator, bracket, and intake here. And all this is straightforward. You have like 8mm bolts on the intake. Your harness, make sure disconnect everything. What I do with this harness, it crosses over, I believe, but I pull it up here to the back and then tie it here on the firewall, just that way it's out of the way, and that way it's not here on top of the engine. Once you remove the intake, you know, you can just make sure to put it there. Same with the fuel lines coming from the back. You unhook it and then just kind of tie them back there. Once I do that, I'll show you guys where I'm at before I keep going. First, before you start anything, disconnect your battery cable, just because you're going to be taking the starter off and everything, and so you don't want nothing to short out. Okay, just a small update. So I went ahead and removed the alternator here on top. That's out of the way. You just take the 2 bolts off, power cable on the back. These are 15, this is a 10, and then disconnect the harness. Radiator fans, they're 12mm here on top, same as the radiator, and then the 2 plugs there at the bottom. You do have to disconnect the transmission cooler lines and the engine oil cooler lines over there. So they have these little clips like you see here, and there's a special tool for them where you just pretty much put it around the line and twist, and it spreads this clip off and you just pull it out. What I do is I get my pick and just pull the clip off. You can do that with a really small screwdriver. Just be careful for that clip to fly off, so you know, put your hand around it. Sometimes if you just pull it off where it's not all the way out, you can pull the hose off and then just push it back in. This one did come off, that's why I put it back on just now. The other ones, they just stayed on there. So, and then let's see what else. I'm gonna go ahead and get up here and start taking this intake off. All the harness, like I mentioned before, all the coils, I'm gonna disconnect them. There's that main harness that goes to the center there, and then you can unbolt them with the 10mm. Actually, the bracket, not the coils individually. You unbolt the bracket and you take the whole thing off on both sides. So I'm gonna do that now and start moving downwards. All right, so I got the intake ready to pull out. It's all unbolted. So as you can see, I put the harness, you undo all the harness, and you can just kind of pull it up there. I just have the wipers holding it. Once you do this bottom one that goes all the way around to the starter, you can kind of push it a little bit more farther out, but this gives you enough room right there to pull the engine out. You know, just be careful when you're pulling it out that it doesn't snag on anything. There's that ground strap. I have to undo that one up there. I already did the fuel line. I just have to do the oil pressure switch and then the camshaft sensor on the back. And then back there, I'll start doing the transmission bolts. I think you can get to the 4 on top through the top easier, from what I found. Also, there's one that holds the dipstick for the transmission. Do that one. There's the coils that I took off here, so they're sitting right here, one on each side, so those come out as an assembly. And so I'll pull this intake off. I'll move on to this bracket and then do those bolts on the back there. Okay, so I went ahead and I forgot to mention before, the compressor, rather than evacuating the system, I just unbolt it from the engine and put it here to the side. There is a bracket where the compressor bolts onto, and I took it off It's right under the water pump here. It's this one here. And this bracket just has, it goes like this. It has 2 bolts that bolt down to the engine. I took it off that way it doesn't get caught on the AC compressor when I'm pulling the engine out, since it's only the 2 bolts. So now if your compressor doesn't have any Freon, or you take it to somewhere to evacuate it, then you can unbolt the lines. There's 2 lines right there on top, and just take the whole thing out of the way. Either way, this has worked for me before, so I'm just gonna do it this way. Then I'm gonna, I did take this bracket off. So once you take, there's gonna be actually 4 bolts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, one all the way at the bottom. There's one right here on the side. It's like a little bracket. It's this one right here. And so make sure to take that one off too. And then the whole assembly comes off, and you can just move it here to the side. The lines are long enough. They just, you know, it's just gonna sit there. And it's, I don't even have it bolt tied down or anything. So, and then the water pump, like I said, the harmonic balancer, I might take it off if I need to. If not, I'll leave it in there. You can use like a 3-drop puller to pull this one out. And that's pretty much as far as I got here. I am gonna move here to the back, so I'll crawl in the engine bay here and start taking the bolts off the bell housing and unplug those 2 sensors, all that, the ground strap. And then I'm probably gonna take this little steam line off, just that way with the chains here, it doesn't bend it or anything. And then I'll go to the bottom and show you guys what I'm gonna do at the bottom. So the bottom's gonna be taking the harness off, the starter, and then I'm bolting the torque converter from the flex plate, as well as finishing unbolting the transmission from the engine. And then the last thing is we'll come back and do the motor mount bolts, which is 3 on each side right there. With everything kind of out of the way now, I should be able to get my impact and sap those off, and we'll be ready to pull this thing out. Okay, so under the vehicle, you want to do the starter on this side, and there's a knock sensor. Disconnect the starter cables. You do the transmission bell housing bolts. There's a couple more on this side. The exhaust flange bolts, which are on both sides. This side I had to undo the oxygen sensor, but depends what exhaust you have in there, you might not have to do that. And then at this point, I'm pretty much ready to just take the flex plate bolts off. So once you take the starter, you'll see the axis right in here, and I have to turn the engine so that way the bolts are visible. So I'm gonna grab myself a socket. I think it's like a 24 maybe, I'm not sure. All right, so this is the torque converter bolts. You can see I pretty much have that one off, and so far I think there's only 3 of these on this vehicle. I don't know if some of the other transmissions, I think this is a, I don't know, 4L60 or something, but yeah, there's only 3 of them. Some of them might have 4. I know when I did a heavy duty 2500 truck, it did have 4. It did have a bigger transmission, or maybe 4-wheel drives possibly, I'm not sure. But everything is all set. From what I can see, it looks like the transmission is a little bit coming off the engine there on the bell housing. So I'm gonna go on top. Transmission lines are just gonna stay right here, so as long as there's nothing holding them up. Normally I believe these have a little bracket somewhere, maybe around here where the little thing is, that holds it to the block. I do see on the oil pan here a little hole where a bolt would go, so if yours has that, make sure to undo that. But that's pretty much it. Now if you have a 4-wheel drive, you'll have the differential right here on the way, so it's going to be a lot harder to get the starter out and all these things out. So you can still get to it, it's just more work because you have to, you know, work around it. Or you can drop it off. I know the other video where I did the oil pump, I took the differential off. That is a whole nother, a lot of work, but it will help you, you know, get access to this. So, okay, I'm gonna go to the top, hook up my hoist, and then I'll show you guys pulling it out. Okay, so the engine is out. Once everything is loose, I just got my hoist out. Lift it up maybe about an inch, and if it doesn't kind of come apart from the transmission, just put a screwdriver, it'll come off. Once it's off about an inch, you know, you want to lift it about 2 inches so it goes up from the engine mounts, and then pull it forward. Once it's, you know, about an inch away from the transmission, you can start going up, and then you just go up forward and you just go around your steering shaft. When you have your exhaust manifolds on and the harmonic balancer, you won't have enough room to pull it out straight. I did turn it a little bit on the side and tilted it so the front of the engine was up, and then pull it out. I didn't film it, but to go back in, I might, I think I might put the harmonic balancer on the new engine first, but I'll wait on the exhaust manifold till at least it's kind of in there. At least one of them, just so I have a little bit more room to maneuver it. Maybe this side, wait till it's in there, or I'll just have to tilt it the same way as it came out and just, you know, put it in an angle. Once it's in, tilt it in, and then lower it from the front. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all the covers off to put them on the new engine, clean them up a little bit, flex plate, and then put them on the new one. I'll try to film putting the new one in so you can kind of see the angle that you have to do to pull it out. But just make sure none of the wires are caught. There's like a ground here on this side. Make sure you take off, you know, all the wires. Make sure they're off of the engine, so you don't want to get anything caught and break anything. So all right, so I got the reman engine here. I already transferred this ground strap, some of the sensors like that one, knock sensor. I'm doing the windage tray here on the bottom, so that's going to be swapped over. It did come with the new oil pump, so I'm gonna put that in there, and then I'll clean up the timing cover, oil pan, put that back in, so that, you know, that's straightforward. You just put it back how it was before. Find your torque specs. I think the oil pan, there's a sequence, but there's also like I think it's like 22 foot-pounds, but double check that. And then I'm gonna put like the crankshaft position sensor back in there. Pretty much everything, motor mounts, everything from the other engine back into this one. Like I mentioned before, the exhaust manifold, I'm gonna do the driver's side. Passenger side, I'm gonna wait till the engine is kind of in there, because that was the part that was kind of making it difficult to take it out. Once it's past, like the harmonic balancer is past the top, I'm gonna put that in there, bolt it on, torque it down, and then be ready to go. All right, so the engine's pretty much almost ready to go in the car. I still have to clean the valve covers and then put them on, but I do have the timing cover. It's not all the way tight. The oil pan also is not all the way tight, but you want to just, you know, switch everything over. The reason I still need the flywheel as well. The reason I didn't time the oil pan and timing cover is I'm going to install the harmonic balancer, so you want to go ahead and install that with this loose, just that way it kind of centers on that seal. And I'll probably loosen these just a little bit, but I do have the harmonic balancer installer that I rented, so I'm gonna install that. That way it's all in there, and then I'll finish tying up, torquing all the bolts here. Okay, I went ahead and pulled the engine in there. I forgot to turn on the camera to record, but without this exhaust manifold, you can pretty much lower the engine sideways. Once the harmonic balancer clears here, you have enough room to turn it and then lower it down. Also makes it a lot easier to put the bolts on your engine mount. without the manifold. So putting the exhaust manifold in here, it won't be that hard. You just gotta, there's plenty of room. You know, align the bolts and bolt it down. So it's kind of late today though, so I'm gonna continue this tomorrow. But pretty much at this point, I have a couple of the bell housing bolts, and that's pretty simple when you do it this way. Just angle the engine a little bit down from the back, put a jack under the transmission to raise it, and go underneath there and just look, you know, where those guide pins are. Raise it or lower it. Once it's lined up, it's gonna kind of just pop in. Since you have it in an angle, the engine's gonna want to go backwards. Once it's in, you can lower the engine and the tranny kind of together, keep them mated, and then at this point, like I said, I'm gonna do the exhaust manifold, go underneath, bolt everything up, do the back bolts, and then start putting everything back together. So it's not too bad, you know, as long as you have like an engine hoist, a good jack, things like that. Someone to help you. So Junior was helping me with, he was controlling the hoist as far as, you know, lowering it a little bit at a time, and I was guiding it. Same with the jack underneath. I done it by myself. It's a lot harder because you have to move something and then go yourself underneath and see what's going on. So if you have someone, at least someone for a few minutes here and there, that can help you a lot. So I'm gonna, tomorrow I'm gonna go ahead and continue on the bottom and then just show you putting everything back.